There are obviously gaps.
Yes.
Ms. Obi Ezekwesili noticed a gap, which is she says that there is a difference between agencies of government and institutions, and oftentimes we tend to confuse the two. We believe that when government sets up an agency, that automatically is an institution meant to do whatever it's meant to do. You also notice some gaps in terms of leadership, the things that we mouth and the things that we do. They are obviously two very different things. How do we get to breach this gap?
Well, you know, one of the things that we must remember is that this is one of the reasons why we put people through education. Now, education is not just going to school, studying the 3 A's and, you know, getting your maths and English and I think everything right. Education is also preparing you to handle the issues of life that you're going to experience. So our education must be, if you remember, in the past, we used even to have civic education. And people were taught what the citizens' duties are to the environment. People were taught also that paying your tax, for instance, is something that you should be willing to do, all right? And you should not be dodging it. But then, because of the way we manage these things, citizens are often led to think, well, whatever government is doing, that's government, not us. But always remember that one of the reasons we prefer democracy to any other form is that it enables us as citizens to choose the people who are going to lead us, the people who are going to govern the country. Now, if we use that facility of personal participation the way we should, then we should be able to at least begin to address this issue of, if government sets up an agency, what's our relationship with it? Because it is true what Obi said, if you don't take ownership of what they're offering you, then you can't turn it to your own benefit.
You know, that it becomes so difficult when we talk in that line, because when we talk about ownership, we have seen young Nigerians and even older and middle-aged Nigerians try to take ownership and even speak up sometimes, taking the legal process or processes by letting these people that we have put in authority or in positions know that what we want is not what they are giving to us, or they have been blind or deaf to the yearnings and aspirations and demands of the electorates. But they don't seem to listen. In that case, what do they do?
Well, you see, let's also remind ourselves that Nigeria is not unique in this particular thing. This has happened elsewhere. When the younger generation want to claim their own future and to assert their rights and obligations, the older generation tend to say, first of all, no, you're not mature, you're not wise enough. Then even when they say they're wise enough, no, we've been here so long, we know everything. That's natural to human beings. It depends really on the courage and the determination of the younger people to get to where they want to go. And one of the things we've got to understand is that it is not an effortless thing. If you really want to tackle the people who are in authority about what they're doing, then do your own research and find out exactly what it is they're doing and how they should be doing it differently. If, for instance, the information that they're giving you is inadequate or inappropriate, then go after information yourself. I usually say to younger people, look, if you want to know what is happening in the National Assembly, if you want to know how much they're paying themselves, you want to know any of these things, it is possible to find out. But you've got to do the research in a constructive way, so that when you find the information and you share it, those who know the truth will say, yes, that is true. But if you keep sharing speculative information, things that you haven't checked, things that you yourself are not sure of, then of course they can pick holes in it. So the younger people who want to claim their territory have got to do some work. It is not effortless. You've got to make the effort.
Now, looking again at this gap you notice and making sacrifices, oftentimes too, it would seem that when citizens want to take ownership, it always seems to be some sort of problem. People wonder if it always has to be in the form of a protest. Do you think it can ever be non-confrontational when you're, trying to take ownership of the agency of government?
It can obviously be non-confrontational. You see, first of all, we have to understand that if there's a trend that's been going on for decades, if the way we've managed our politics and governance has been like this for decades, it's not going to change overnight. So people who want to change it must be ready to be patient and watch the change take place in a constructive and sustainable manner. So that's the first thing. The reasons why we go into violent protest is that we want things to happen immediately. And when you want things to happen immediately, you tend to just, flail in all kinds of directions. And then the executive comes and throws tear gas at you, and that's the end of the matter. Whereas if, as I was suggesting earlier, if you actually said, all right, look, we want to know how we can make our legislatures more effective, it is possible to do the research. And many of these young people we're talking about have master's degrees, they have doctorate degrees, they are used to the discipline of research. Now, let's do something that gives us the kind of information that is so authentic that nobody can come back and say, no, don't mind these people.
Mr. Kolade, the other side would be flipping it to the older generation,
yes,
who's been there. Do they care enough about the future of Nigeria, of this country, for instance, to seek to transfer knowledge? Because sometimes the younger generations doing their research, they find these things and they come forth with it. But the older generation says, you're wrong. They keep insisting that you're wrong because they've been there, they've seen how it started and all that's been done. So they want to prove to the younger ones that they're wrong. But yet they're not. It's as though they don't care about the future.
That's partly because the structures that we use now in carrying out this conversation are still under the control of the people you call the older generation. Now, it is possible for the younger people to set up their own structures. And people tell me, oh, that's expensive, you don't have the capital for it. It's not true. You can actually set up, say, a weekly, a monthly forum for discussion of issues, but bring people who can articulate the challenges, the points that you want to highlight in a way that provides something you can construct a structure on. In other words, what I'm saying really is that we all want an improved country. We want a better Nigeria. But let's remember that Nigeria is a vast place. Many of us, many different interests, many different cultures. We've got to work at what we do to make sure that we remain stable while making the changes we're talking about. So violent protest is a flash in the pan. It comes and it goes. And if the executive is thick-skinned enough not to want to even listen to you, they just send the police after you, and that's it. But if you want something constructive, my advice to young people, and I do this at the Lagos Business School where I still do some teaching, is that you should, first of all, select those things you want to be heard about. Find out what you want to say. Find the places where you're going to say what you want to say. so that it will be effective. And you can do it, but it's not by muscle and bone.